Imagine a war where your opponents are not humans, but birds. Picture the year 1932, a time when Australia was caught in the throes of the Great Depression. Soldiers turned farmers trying to eke out a living from the harsh Australian soil found themselves facing an unexpected enemy, an invasion of emus. These flightless birds, native to the region, descended in droves upon Western Australia. They were not there for a friendly visit, far from it. They were there in search of food, and they found it in the farmers' crops. With a relentless appetite, the emus consumed and trampled everything in their path, leaving behind a trail of destruction and despair. The farmers, already struggling to make ends meet, were left desperate and frustrated. In a bid to save their livelihoods, they sought help from the government, and thus, in an unusual twist of events, the Australian government declared an unusual and unprecedented war against the emus. The battle lines were drawn, and the soldiers stepped onto the battlefield, armed not for human opponents, but for flightless birds. The Australian military, facing an unconventional enemy, came equipped with a plan. Soldiers fresh from World War I were dispatched to the front lines of this peculiar conflict, their weapons of choice, 2 Lewis machine guns and a cache of 10,000 rounds. Their strategy was simple: use the machine guns to decimate the emu population and protect the farmers' livelihoods. But the emus weren't your average enemy. Agile and swift, they darted across the battlefield, scattering in all directions at the sound of gunfire. The soldiers, trained for trench warfare, found themselves in a confounding situation. Their targets were fast, elusive, and proved a challenging hit. Bullets whizzed through the air, more often than not, finding only empty space. The emus, in their unpredictable frenzy, dodged the onslaught with surprising resilience. The emus, it seemed, were not going down without a fight. Despite their best efforts, the soldiers found themselves outmatched by the emus. Imagine the scene: a squadron of seasoned soldiers, armed to the teeth, facing off against a feathered foe. The soldiers were ready for a swift victory, but the emus had other plans. Their military tactics, a combination of speed, agility, and unpredictability that would put any seasoned general to shame. Every time the soldiers opened fire, the emus would scatter in all directions, creating a chaotic scene that made it incredibly difficult to aim. The birds were swift and agile, their speed unmatched by anything the soldiers had faced before. With each burst of gunfire, the emus would scatter, bob, and weave, avoiding the majority of the bullets. Day after day, the soldiers tried to outsmart their avian adversaries. They changed tactics, they adjusted their aim, but nothing seemed to work. The emus were always one step ahead, their survival instincts honed to perfection. Eventually, the military admitted defeat. The soldiers, who had come to the front lines ready for a quick and easy victory, found themselves outgunned and outmaneuvered by a flock of flightless birds. They withdrew from the battlefield, leaving the emus to continue their destructive path across the farmlands. In a twist that no one saw coming, the emus had won the Great Emu War. The emus rejoiced in their victory, continuing their destructive ways until the seasons changed. As the dust settled and the soldiers retreated, farmers were left to grapple with the aftermath of this peculiar conflict. Frustration grew as their crops continued to be ravaged by these formidable birds. The battle might have ended, but the war with the emus was far from over. Yet the relentless birds were not eternal tormentors. As the seasons shifted, so too did the emus' behavior. They eventually moved on, leaving behind a trail of trampled crops and bewildered farmers. The Great Emu War had officially come to an end. In the grand tapestry of history, the Great Emu War weaves a rather unusual thread. It's a tale that stirs up laughter, induces head-scratching, and invites reflection. It's a testament to the unpredictable nature of wildlife and the unforeseen challenges that can arise when humans try to assert control over it. This quirky event also underscores the resilience of those early Australian farmers. In the face of economic hardship, they stood their ground against an unexpected enemy. And while their battle tactics might have been unconventional, their spirit was undeniably human. As we look back on this unique chapter of history, we're reminded of the importance of coexisting with nature. We're reminded that every creature has its role to play, and sometimes that role can catch us off guard. The Great Emu War serves as a reminder of the unpredictable nature of wildlife and the challenges we sometimes face in our attempts to control it.